Story comes out. Job hunters are so desperate that they're paying people to get hired and recruited. And by the way, this is not a story from Inquirer. This is a story from Wall Street Journal. So landing a white-collar job is getting so tough that candidates, not companies, are paying recruiters to match them with positions. Through good economic times and bad, recruiters have usually operated the other way around. Companies pay them to find talent for tough-to-fill positions. Now, though, job seekers are hiring a new crop of what are called reverse recruiters to help them crack a competitive market. Daniel Bejarano, 36 years old, signed up for reverse recruiting service refer last year after receiving an email pitch from the company. Refer's AI agent connected him with an executive at Golden, a volunteer management company which was looking for platform engineer and data scientist. Bejarano got the offer after several interviews. He then paid Refer 20% of his first month's pay once it landed in his bank account. Tom, your thoughts on this?
So I think what's going on here is a couple things going on. Is it tougher to find a job? Yes, in many sectors it is right now. Is the job market tightening? Yes, it appears to be. And it may be worse in certain sectors, it may be worse in certain geographies where you live. So yes, it's good to have a Sherpa that's going to take you up to Everest and going to help you through it. The other thing is that companies are having a horrible time trying to filter out incoming inquiries for jobs. And it's hard to have yourself show up in that. We see it from many of the clients at Bet David Consulting. They talk about that. There are so many bots and so many fake resumes. I'll give you a real world example. We put up a job opening for a business analyst, and we were inundated by a set of resumes that were coming from offering us people from a certain country, but there were brokers in the middle trying to offer them to us and saying, and we can help you with the H1-B. That spam was on top of good candidates that we wanted to see, that we wanted to review, good quality people, citizens ready to work. And so that's one of the reasons that at David Consulting, we built higher metrics to help filter that. Right now, filter is the headline here. It's not what they're talking about. People are actually paying to get a company to help them filter in to find a job, the same way that companies are willing to pay money for software to help them filter.
What does that mean?
It means
that's almost
it's broken.
Let me
The system is broken.
But let me explain to you what this means. This is like saying the market has changed so much because of female-driven AI that men create, that women are paying men to go on a date with them. Mm-hmm. That's the best comparison I can make.
That's a good comparison.
That's a weird thing to happen. Why do you think we're here? Where people are paying for recruiters to place them at a company?
Well, look, there's no question that we have a weak labor market in the United States. I mean, first of all, look at the data that came out last week. Challenger reported the largest January announced layoffs since January 2009, where we were in the financial crisis, a great recession. Look at the JOLTS numbers that just came out. There was a collapse in job openings. So we have a weak labor market. The only thing strong is inflation. And you had the clip from Fox News with Bessett on there. Well, I was on Fox and Friends not too long ago on a Saturday, and unfortunately, I'll probably never be on again, because I went on and I told the truth about consumer prices and inflation. And Trump went ballistic on Truth Social and just chastised Fox for having me on, said I was a jerk, said I was a loser, that I was just a Trump hater. And they said, find the booker who put this jerk on. And ever since then, nobody will return my emails at Fox News. I think they got me completely banned from the network for speaking honestly. Trump actually said that I was wrong because I claimed that prices were going up, when according to Trump, they're going down. They're going down massively. So the cost of living, according to Donald Trump.
By the way, did you vote for him?
Well, I live in Puerto Rico, so it doesn't matter. I voted for him. So the only time I voted for him where it counted was the first time he ran in 2016. I lived in Connecticut then, and I was able to vote, although he lost Connecticut.
Is this the tweet? Why would Fox and Friends weekend put on a stockbroker named Peter Schiff, a Trump-hating loser who has already proven to be wrong? Either the show made a mistake or it's heading in a different direction. He thinks prices are going up when, in fact, they're coming down. Gasoline hit $1.99 yesterday in certain states and is big since Biden. Other prices are almost down. Biden caused the affordability crisis. I'm fixing it, along with everything else. Much of it, like the border, is already fixed. Check out the Booker who put the jerk on.
Yeah. So yeah. But I actually encouraged all of my followers to vote for Trump over Harris. So I probably got the president a lot of votes. It's not like I have a small following. A lot of people do pay attention to what I say, and I encourage people. In fact, I was a big Trump defender when all the lawfare was going out against him for January 6th and a lot of other things. I completely supported Donald Trump when I thought he was in the right. So I'm not just your typical, Trump hater who's got Trump derangement syndrome. The people who I think have Trump derangement syndrome are the people that support him no matter what he does, no matter what lies he tells. If you're just going to support him, you're the one that's deranged.
Luke.
Sorry, what was the original question again? I apologize.
Job. People are paying people to get a job.
Yeah, I think ultimately, Tom said something interesting about the H1-B, that these get flooded with the H1-B, and that was a huge political debate around. And it's interesting, if you look, something I've observed at least, anytime you have an economic policy floated in this country that looks to boost American wages, whether that be H1-B limits, whether that be border restrictions and deportations, et cetera, they don't get framed in economic terms. Never. They never, ever get framed in economic terms. They always get framed in the media in social terms, in social justice terms. And I'm not the social justice guy, but if you had a fair and balanced media, they would say, here's the social justice angle, and America, if we remove this many workers at H1-B or whatever, your wages as a graduating engineer from Cal or Stanford or the University of Michigan would go up over time by this much. And if you were a laborer and there were this many deportations, over time your wages would rise this much. There's a reason why the media never frames the economic argument for these policies is people would vote for them, and that's not what they want. The powers that be want to cap wages. These are methods they use to cap wages. So first, I think it's really interesting, Tom, your point on H1Bs, that, okay, there are this flood. End of the day, I add that H1B to the graduating kids. It tells me what the flow of funds, what you were highlighting, which is there's too much supply. There's not enough demand for those kids, for those jobs, ultimately.
My point was, I'm sorry about it. Give me 1 second. My point was, think about how hard it is for us to find good candidates in the crowd because we have to get through the spam of these machines that are being run by brokers that are trying to throw H1Bs when they see certain position titles. Now think about the good person on the other end trying to find a job and break through that, who is now in a tightening job market where it's harder to find the jobs and saying, damn it, I need help to break through, Pat. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay somebody to see if they can get me to the front of the line. How do I get TSA PreCheck to get through the front of this line so these people can see me so I can get a job? I think that the job search in the digital world is a little bit broken right now. We just heard that half the traffic on the internet was bots, right? Mm-hmm. And we're seeing the bots 51%. In our inbox where we're trying to find great candidates. So I think there's a couple things going on here between economy and the availability of jobs, tightening market, but then how hard it is for us to filter out.
Brandon, you're 30 years old. Your friends are looking for jobs, right? Yeah. You went to school. You got a bachelor's and a master's in national security. When you talk to your friends that are looking for jobs, what are they telling you?
So a lot of people have really similar skill sets, like kind of cookie cutter products of college, and I think that's part of the problem too. I mean, so like, the range for somebody with an average degree is probably, I don't know, 60 to 85,000 for like a job they're applying for. And, the skill sets are usually like liberal arts to something with math or STEM. STEM, you'll end up doing better. But this is a cross current of like so many weird things. Like it's such a weird situation, but I think the things that are causing it is things like distorting the economy with, artificially low or high interest rates, somebody else being involved with that, the zombie companies. So like companies that shouldn't exist do exist. Companies that would exist if we weren't interfering in it don't exist yet. Mm-hmm. The H1B visas trying to hire cheap labor, right? So all the illegal immigrants. So a lot of, it's not one thing in particular, but it's all these things that are creating this like bizarre, backwards, dystopian situation. So I mean, it's just a product of government being involved where it shouldn't be, and not being involved where it should be.
Peter.
Yeah, and certainly because of the massive subsidy that government provides to education. I mean, we graduate a lot more people with liberal arts degrees than would graduate in a free market. So we're putting these students into a job market that doesn't have jobs for what they just wasted taxpayer money studying for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, if we had a free market in college, we wouldn't have all this student debt, and we'd have much lower tuition. And the only people that would go to college would be people who would actually benefit from the degree. A lot of people would just get jobs right out of high school and maybe even not even go to high school. And we might actually have quality jobs for those people to move into if the federal government or if the Fed didn't artificially suppress interest rates, if we didn't have savings that could finance capital investment. So our whole economy has been screwed up by government intervention. But I wanted to point out, you know, Donald Trump makes a big deal about cheap gas. Well, oil prices are now up about 20% since they hit the lows. All the oil stocks are hitting 52-week highs. They're indicating that oil prices are going to rise. And I think the one thing the president has been hanging his hat on, cheap gas, is going to go away. I think by the time the midterm elections roll around, we're going to be looking at $80 to $100 a barrel oil, and everything else is going to be a lot more expensive. So the story that inflation is dead and buried is going to be completely gone. And the box that the Republicans are going to be in, unfortunately, in the midterms, is they're going to be in the position of trying to lie to the public to convince them that a bad economy is good, whereas the Democrats are going to be able to be honest about how bad the economy is, and they're just going to lie that they're going to fix it.
So you say that, but Peter, this is the question. Then why is it that Trump's approval rating with the people that voted for him went up from 74% to 79%? Why?
I think, well, his overall approval ratings are pretty weak, but
no, with his base, with the people that voted for him, not overall, because overall could be mainstream media bashing him, negativity, anything and everything they can. They're going to say negative things about him. But why are the people that voted for him happier than when they voted for him?
I think Trump voters really like Trump. I think Trump is almost like a modern day folk hero at this point. And I think, the fact that, he almost died, right? He survived that assassination attempt, I think really, raised his level in the eyes of the public to that kind of folk hero. So I think that people who like the president just really like him. They and they listen to him and there are things.
Well, why
about
do they
Trump
like
that I
him?
like.
Why do they like him?
Because he's basically sticking his thumb in the eye of the establishment. He's telling them what they want to hear about shaking things up and about breaking.
Why else do you think they like him? All that stuff is gibberish, right? Specific results. What happened to crime from a year ago? Down 20%. Murder. What happened to the border? Zero. How important is security to them? Very.
Yeah, I think
the amount
perception.
of
perception.
No,
of
that's not.
security.
No, that's not perception. No. There's two different things. Perception is, hey, you're 6'9" with a 38-inch vertical leap. My perception is you're going to score 30 points tonight. And then you play basketball, the reality is you suck. You score zero. No, this is border went to zero, right? So crime went down. American people feel safer. The world respects America again.
Well, I don't know that the world. I would disagree that the world respects.
Oh, really?
America.
No one's coming knocking on the door.
No
one's coming
that's
to us.
all made up. I mean, if the world was respecting America more, they would be. The fact that everybody is begging to make deals. Look, the world is moving on from the United States. Look at China. I mean, China's trade with the U.S. is down substantially, but their trade with the rest of the world is up substantially to the point where they're exporting more now than they were before our tariffs. So I think the world has less respect for the United States now than it did in the past. But American voters, yeah, it may resonate with them. I think they like the fact that Trump is pushing back against the political correctness movement that was, kind of spearheaded by the Democrats, with the woke agenda. And I think there has been a cultural backlash against that. And I think, that has been a positive of Trump in pushing back against that. But yes, I think the U.S. is less respected. In fact, look what Trump just did with Greenland. I mean, basically threatening an ally that, hey, if we can't make a deal on our terms to buy Greenland, we're going to invade. We're going to send the U.S. military in there because nobody can stop us because we have this powerful military and we can do whatever we want. I think that sent a very, very bad message to the rest of the world. Even though Trump ultimately backed down from that, he contemplated it in public. He actually talked about using our military to annex Greenland.
When we set out to create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at every step. Introducing the Future Looks Bright collection. Not rushed, not disposable, not ordinary. Rather, intentional, luxurious, timeless. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.